We've got not sunny Jersey in the house. We've got Rwanda in the house. We have very sunny and hot and steamy Austin, Texas in the house. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited. Today is the second, I guess you could say, installment of the Chef Nathan Lyon, Mary Eve Brown, like symbiotic relationship, like a bee and a flower. We're your one-stop shop for all this information. As a chef, I'm happy to share with you what I know as far as learning and things that I've learned in culinary school and so on and so forth. And Mary Eve Brown, a clinical oncology dietitian at John Hopkins Hospital, who knows literally everything else. I know this, and she's got everything else. So it's an honor to have her on board. Mary Eve, would you like to say a few things about today and your excitement, dare I say?
Thank you, Chef. So good to be with you. So I'm Mary Eve Brown. I am an oncology dietitian at Johns Hopkins. I've been a dietitian a very long time, over 30 years, and I've been in the realm of oncology for 20 years. And it's my passion to help people with their journey with cancer and recovery and survivorship. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, me too. I'm caffeinated. I don't know about you, Mary Eve, but I'm caffeinated. I'm ready to get going. But for those of you who perhaps this is your first time with us, and we're thrilled to have you. Maybe this is your second time. Maybe you've been part of the Chef Series for many, many years. Actually, I got involved because my buddy, my Hans Rufert, my goodness, see, too much caffeine. Hans Rufert, a buddy of mine from a long time ago, got me involved with Debbie's Dream Foundation. I couldn't be more thrilled to be here. But who am I exactly if this is your first time? Well, my name is Nathan Lyon. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. I'm a Pisces. We're past all that, right? I'm from Arlington, Virginia. I earned a health sciences degree from James Madison University, a public health minor. I completed a course to become a medical technician at UCLA Extension. I decided to shift a little bit, go to culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu, and then worked with farmers for over a decade. I love to share what I've learned in all facets of those things. And I hope you guys are ready. This is being recorded, by the way. So if you're sitting there with a pen and or pencil and paper, you can keep that or you can scrap it and watch this as many times as you wish on Debbie's Dream Foundation YouTube page, okay? Speaking of writing things down, this is old school, right? This is new school. I've never used my thumb because I don't know how to type. If you would like to ask myself or Mary Eve a question, just go ahead and type the questions in the chat box or the comment box, and Sarah will relay those questions either to myself or to Mary Eve, okay? Let's practice that, just for fun. Just for fun. What is the
Where are you? Where are you?
Not just where are you, what is the temperature outside? And that makes me think, well, do I need an iced tea or do we need a hot tea? That's where my brain goes, okay? What's the temperature? Keep it nice and easy, okay? So I guess that's it. Thanks so much for coming. We've had a long time, great time. Today's dishes are all about Asian-inspired dishes, Southeast Asian dishes, which I love so much because there's so many different qualities to each dish. You don't have to do them all at once. We've got 4 dishes to cover today. You can just grab one of them and have them be part of your culinary Rolodex and pull them out anytime you wish. Again, any questions you have about any ingredients, don't be afraid to type those questions in. And if you have an Asian style grocery store nearby, consider it a really fun field trip to try new things, because sometimes, for example, we're using certain herbs or spices that really impart a lot of flavor in the food without affecting the GI tract whatsoever, okay? So let's get started. So
Stacey says it's 90 degrees.
90 degrees. And where are we?
Stacey's in Jersey, I think.
Yeah, not so sunny Jersey, I guess.
Oh, no, that's Melanie.
Oh.
I'm not sure where Stacey is. Okay. Where are you, Stacey?
It's exciting. Listen, I think this Zoom thing just makes it so that we can each be in each other's living rooms or kitchens, as in our case, and we can have this really intimate time together. and get to know each other, okay? So I'm hungry for the information Mary Eve has on offer, but let's get started with a little bit of food, shall we?
South Florida.
South Florida, I-95, the most mountainous thing ever. Florida, so many mountains. Kidding, totally flat. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna start with this steamed salmon dish. It has some bok choy, but first we're going to start with this really simple but very flavorful broth, okay? Let me show you this sort of smorgasbord, if you will, of different ingredients, okay? You can find them at your local grocery store. One of them, maybe not, but it depends, okay? Definitely the Asian grocery store. So a couple ingredients I'm just going to throw in a large pot behind me with some stock. But before we get ahead of ourselves, this is ginger that I just peeled and very thinly sliced, okay, some fresh ginger. I have 3 large garlic cloves, which all I did was took the side of my knife and really bashed the heck out of it, okay? Bam, 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 really bashed it up. This is lemongrass. I'll show you how to prepare that. And I also have a little bit of shallot and a Thai chili, okay? I'm a white guy from Virginia. I don't like a lot of spice, but a little bit of spice to balance it out is actually quite nice. And then this right here is a Thai lime. It's just the zest. This is what a Thai lime looks like. If you've ever had Tom Yum Gai, the soup, the Thai soup, that's exactly the flavor. It's like a lime-ish flavor, and it's so fragrant, it'll just knock you on your butt, okay? So this is really great. And you can also use the leaves as well. So Thai lime leaves, okay?
That's what they use for green curry, right?
And for green curry, just smash it all together. Okay? A lot of flavor in this tiny little package, but just the outside of it, okay? So what I'm gonna do, as I promised you, just gonna take this pot. It's not a magic trick. It's a solid pot. There are no rabbits coming out of this. And I'm just gonna put all these ingredients here, okay? So I've got the garlic, I've got the ginger, shallot, all right? This Thai chili. I'm not even gonna break it because again, you still have a little bit of oil. It's gonna imbibe a little bit of heat in there. The lemongrass and the lime leaf. Now this is lemongrass, okay? You've probably seen it at the grocery store. Maybe you're not as familiar with it. Do not be afraid of this. This is one of my favorite things. If you have some extra ones, you can bash it up. This is how I did this. I just cut it into thirds like this. And then take the back of your knife, not the sharp part, the back of your knife. Just bash it a couple times, okay? Until it splits apart. That's all you do. And if you like tea like I do, throw one of these in there with some fresh ginger, hot water, let it steep. Delicious, okay? I'm gonna throw a little extra in there.
It freezes really well too. So I buy a large portion of it and then I throw it in the freezer and then you can just pull it out when you need it.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make things even more simple. See, I'm learning. The student is learning from the teacher.
Ginger, the same thing. Buy ginger, stick it in your freezer.
And then grate it when it's frozen?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Here we go. Mary Eve, we need to fly you here to our kitchen so we can do a little cooking thing together, which would be amazing. I'd love it too.
Or come to Baltimore and cook in my kitchen.
I love that too.
Let's make that happen. Okay. Instead of using water, okay, I'm going to use some stock. Okay. What is? Oh, this one. Got it. Well, there's some extra stock over here. So instead of using water, I'm going to use some stock. You can use vegetable stock. If you have homemade vegetable stock, that's great. I like better than bouillon. If you want to do chicken stock, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to add just half a quart of some stock, just enough to get those flavors going. Okay.
Hey, Chef, if I'm having a hard time getting protein in, could I use a bone broth in that?
Oh yeah, you certainly could. It's just that one, depending upon beef is a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
And beef and salmon may be a little bit of a juxtaposition, but I would do, chicken. The thing about chicken bones is I'll sometimes go to my, Asian grocery store and just get a bunch of chicken feet. And it's so much gelatin and so much flavor that when you pull it out of the refrigerator, it's like literally a thing of Jello. And it's just so good for you. And it turns to liquid. It imparts all these wonderful flavors that we're talking about right now. And it's just so healthful for you as well. Okay, great question. I have here organic coconut milk, not with agar gum, full fat. I'm going to go ahead and just pop this whole thing in there. And the importance of this, as far as the coconut, is that it has fat. All the different things that we're talking about that have all these different flavors, like the lemongrass, like this lime leaf zest, like the garlic, those are all fat soluble, volatile flavors, if you will. So essential oils, and oil always works with oil. They carry each other. If you put, say, lemongrass just in water, it wouldn't get a lot of flavor, but a little bit of fat will help that flavor just pool all the way through. So
and the great thing about coconut is it's shorter chains of carbons. So they're easier to digest than longer chains of carbons.
Oh, fantastic. This is
very gut friendly.
This one's getting knocked out of the park. I think we're really scoring on this one. Okay.
I don't have COVID today, so
things are looking up every day. Tomatoes. I decided it's kind of spring in certain parts of the country. It's definitely summer here in Austin. Decided to go with some tomatoes, some local tomatoes, which are lovely. All I've done was slice them in half. Knife skills are not important with this particular dish. Okay, cut them in half, and we're just developing this wonderful broth, this lovely flavor. It's like when you have this incredible salad, and then you have whatever that tomato juice that's left over in the bottom. You drink that. That's what we're going for here. Okay. Let me move this over so you guys can see exactly what's in here. You see that okay? It's this wonderful, like, floating raft of all these different types of flavors. Now, a lot of stuff is in here right now. I'll do just a touch of salt, not a lot, a quarter teaspoon, because it does need a little bit of salt, okay? And then we're gonna move on, before I put this on the flame, we're gonna move on to this big bad Larry. Is anyone familiar with celery root? This is not the same thing as the celery that's grown from the stalks, but this is celery root. You may have just walked right by it and been like, what is that?
Ugly. It's ugly.
And just pretend you never saw it. Just keep on going. Go ahead and stop. Grab one of these. Celery root. It's wonderful. It looks really gnarly. And it is a little gnarly on the outside, but it's very delicate. It's very creamy. It's got a lovely, soft, delicate flavor. But I wanted to show you how to break one of these down, okay? So I like to use my chef's knife, make sure it's nice and sharp. And it's got this lovely, creamy white color on the inside too, okay? Worst case scenario, let's say you wanted to eat this raw and you didn't really feel like even cooking it. You could easily do that. Slice it really thin, a little bit of olive oil, some lemon juice, some parsley. And this is one of those things you may see in a really fancy restaurant. But after you see me break this down, you'll realize it's actually not that fancy at all. It just happens to be something that we're not as familiar with. But they're out there. At my local grocery store, I saw them. They had organic and non-organic. I always try to buy organic whenever possible. And I do have, the crazy thing is, actually, Mary Eve, when I shopped for these yesterday, the organic ones were less expensive than the non-organic.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
If you're not going to eat the skin of whatever you're going to buy, you don't need to buy organic because you're not eating the part that was exposed to anything. So a pineapple, a banana,
sure,
melons, but if it's cost friendly.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is, like, sometimes it doesn't make any sense. You always think the organic is going to be more expensive, and sometimes it's not, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So that's all I have. Didn't take much time. And all I do is I just simply break this down into 1-inch slices, turn it, break it down into 1-inch cubes. And let me show you what I have here. All right. This is 2 pounds. So sometimes they're really big ones, and sometimes they're 3 small ones that make up 2 pounds. And because I'm a visual guy, I took a little bit of lemon juice so they didn't turn brown. And that's it. Okay. That's what we got going on. I'm going to take this lid. It has to be perforated, right? For one of these guys, a little steamer, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this right on top of that broth that will become a broth as we're steaming this celery root. That goes right in there, okay? Put the lid on, because sure enough, things with the lid on will boil about 70% faster than if you don't have the lid. And I'm gonna crank that bad boy out, okay? We'll do it to like a medium. Once I see it steaming, I'll turn it down a little bit. So one dish already underway, yeah? Which is a little crushing, chopping, open a can, we can do this. We'll get through this together, okay?
We have Merritt here from Royal Oak, Michigan, 78 degrees.
Was that bad?
Melanie, who's in Jersey, 58 degrees, feels like 56. We haven't seen the sun in days.
Woof, woof, that sounds chilly. You know, when you're in a place that will soon be in the hundreds and nonstop, I think we'll come and visit you in Jersey because a little bit of shade sounds pretty good for this dome, you know? Okay, first dish is well underway. Okay, we only have a couple more things to do, but we want to make sure we develop that broth as we're steaming, which is a wonderful way of preparing things, as we're steaming those vegetables, okay? Next thing, let's move on to a salad. Yeah, just a regular mixed green salad, which has an incredible dressing. The dressing is one of the things that I absolutely love. It's like the dressing for a peanut butter sandwich is jelly. That's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The dressing, right? Sometimes it's strawberry dressing, sometimes it's grape dressing, but it's pretty good, right? That's the like liquid part that just feels so good in your mouth.
I don't know why people buy dressing. It's so easy to make. I was in my local market last night and I went into my really good friend Shannon, and she's like trying to find dressing. I'm like, make it. It's really easy. You can control what you're putting in it. So you control the ingredients. She's like, I'm trying to follow low sugar. I'm like, make your own dressing and don't put any honey or sugar in it.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be either of those in there. And that's what's wonderful about cooking at home. You can sort of deviate away. Like, for example, if you're not into spice at all, you can just lose that Thai chili. If, you know, garlic upsets your system, you can leave the garlic out. There's so many different types of flavors that we're cooking with today. It's like the petal of a flower. If it's missing one or two petals, it's still a beautiful flower. It's a building block of flavor, okay? This dressing really is exactly that. It's right on the nose. It's a hat on a hat, okay? It's an amazing dressing. And we're gonna go ahead and start with some sesame oil, okay? I like toasted sesame oil. It has a little bit more flavor.
Stronger flavor.
Stronger flavor.
Yeah, stronger flavor.
Stronger flavor.
And use a little bit less, goes further, okay? We're gonna go ahead and go with a teaspoon of that.
I keep mine in my fridge because I don't use it very often, and oils are very volatile, which means that they can go rancid pretty quick.
For sure. And mostly if they're toasted, it's the same thing with like anything that's just like nuts. Even coffee will go bad once it's roasted. You're exactly right, Mary. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with some fresh orange juice, okay? A little bit of fresh orange juice. The great thing about Southeast Asian flavors, it has like some tartness, some sweetness, some heat, some herbaceousness. There's just like so much going on that I'm never bored when eating dishes from that region of the world, which is what I love. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice. We did freshly squeeze it. It wasn't even like when you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh, some orange juice, is it freshly squeezed? And they go, You're like, I'll have the water, thanks. Not freshly squeezed, okay? So ginger.
It's not as good.
It's not as good. You're like, what is this, from the freezer section in the 1970s? That's when I grew up. Ginger, okay? When you get ginger, I'll have Sarah show it to you. I like to get them, they're called hands with this massive, here we go. I get them like this, just monsters. Again, Asian grocery stores will have them, and this would cost you maybe $2, maybe. Keep it in the fridge, not in a drawer, not in a plastic bag, just boom, right on the top of the fridge, and it'll last the longest, okay? And what I've done is I've just taken a big thumb size and I've sliced the outer portion away. And I'm just using a microplane because this is gonna go in a salad dressing. I don't want big chunks of it. So I'm using a microplane. One of the things I highly recommend you get if you don't have one already, it makes really quick work with a lot of flavor. And they're pretty sharp. So that's why I don't want to be rude by not looking at you as I'm doing this, but I like the tips of my fingers. So I'm just going to look down for just this small period of time because if it's too close to my fingertips, I want to keep those, okay? So about a tablespoon, that's pretty good. Quick work, yeah? So I'm gonna go ahead and scoop that in there. Tablespoon of that. Just, oh my gosh, it's like, the thing about freshly grated ginger, it's almost like when you start cooking something and you throw in onions, which we'll do later on, just the smell of onions cooking, maybe a little garlic, just brings people from all over the house. And they're like, what is that you're making? You're like, so far, just onions. And it's pretty cool. That's what garlic does to me. That's what ginger does to me. It just makes me want to salivate and just dive right in face first. Garlic, Yeah, go ahead and throw that in there too. That was all done with a microplane. This is all real time. We made this happen. It's really, really fast. If you don't talk incessantly like I have been, you can cook every dish we're doing together faster than what I'm doing by myself. So think about that. It's pretty cool. Going back to the salad dressings, if you want to do honey or if you want to do sugar, I have a preference to honey just because honey has a certain flavor profile to it, whereas just sugar makes things sweet, which is important, but I'm going to go with a little bit of honey.
Honey also has antioxidants in it.
There we go. This is nice. You're amazing. You are so amazing. We are on the road next week. I don't know for how long, and I don't know where we're staying, but I thank Debbie's Dream Foundation for putting us up in the nicest hotels. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so honey, I want some acidity. So far we have a lot of flavor going on in here, but I do need some acidity more than just the citrusy, like the orange juice has a flavor to itself, but I need a little bit of acidity. It's almost like when you have an avocado and it's really good, and you add a little salt and it's good. But once you add that lime, the acidity really makes it pop, right? So I'm gonna add some acidity, and that goes in with seasoned rice wine vinegar. You may have seen these. Again, I'm hoping you stop and grab one of the smaller bottles if you're not cooking these very often. But it's a vinegar. It lasts forever. Okay, it doesn't take a lot of space, and they have small little bottles. This one is unseasoned rice wine vinegar, and this one is seasoned rice vinegar. The only difference, the word seasoned means sugar. Okay, it's a little bit more balanced. So if you don't have sugar around, you want to just go ahead and hit that. That's fine. We already have a sweetener, so I can go in with some regular unseasoned rice wine vinegar. Okay, let's go ahead and go with let's do 3 tablespoons of that. I'm gonna have to use the other one. We're running low.
Do you guys have Hey, Chef, do you have H Mart in your area? The Asian?
You know, we do. It's up north, but I mean, we lived in LA for 20 years, and so we were super fortunate to have a lot of other ones. But again, when you go up there and it's just like you hear the cherubs singing in your ears, because you don't even need a passport. You are literally being transported into a world that is just not as familiar, right? One more ingredient, actually that's not true, 2 more ingredients, but as far as ease, all this stuff is quite easy because half of the ingredients came from jars, or little tubs. This is soy sauce, okay? Instead of using salt, which just is salty, I'm gonna use some soy sauce, which has umami. It's fermented. It's gonna be better for your whole system. It's gonna have a lot more flavor. And when it's fermented like this, and umami, it makes you salivate. It's the same thing if you were to have a steak or some mushrooms, it makes you salivate. It's this wonderful, I'm gonna go for 4 teaspoons or a tablespoon and a teaspoon. And that goes in. So we've got so much complexity. And this is a salad dressing. What is he doing? Okay, that's good. And then freshly ground black pepper, not the McCormick's, not the giant red and white McCormick's that your great grandmother gave you back in the 60s. I'm only saying 60s because I'm 51 and I say 70s a lot. And Sarah's like, how old are you?
A baby.
Sure.
A baby.
Just thank you. Thank you so much. And I don't even know. Thank you all. I love you all. That's the vinaigrette. Okay, that's the vinaigrette. Just do a quick whisk. It's got a lot going on in here. You don't have to go crazy. When you're whisking, best way to whisk is just side to side, just like this. We're making it so that all the ingredients are smashing against one another. This is not the way you whisk, or this is not the way you'll whisk from now on. Correct. You're just, for anything, you're just chasing. Like we're whisking eggs, whisk nothing else in the rest of your life like this. How's that? It's all side to side. That's the way you incorporate.
It? Can you put it in something and shake it? Or is it has to be?
Although what Sarah likes to do is she puts it in something and she just shakes like this, and that stays straight. I don't know what that's about. Yes, you could. You could. And then you could, of course, if you go through it pretty fast, you could just keep it on the counter, or if you want to make a larger one, put it in the fridge, bring it out of room temperature just before you use it, okay? So the dressing's ready. Now, the cool thing about salads, that I love making salads, is that you can take the heartier ingredients like carrots, celery, some cucumber, and you can actually put it on top of the dressing like that, okay? And the reason why I did that is it makes it a lot easier. It clears up a lot of space. And I'm not concerned about carrots getting soft or cucumbers getting soft or celery getting soft because they don't absorb the oil like delicate leaf lettuce does. So whenever you're making a salad, how are we doing on this? Well, we got some steam, so I'm going to turn it down just a bit. All right. Good eye, Sarah. Whenever you're making a salad, most recipes will say, make the dressing or put the salad together and don't dress it until just before you're about to serve. And the reason for that is that it's not the vinegar, it's the oil that inundates the cell structure of the delicate greens. So if you have spinach and it looks great and you dress it, and 20 minutes later, it's just flat as a pancake. That's because of the oil. So that's why you want to make sure that you have everything here. We're going to keep the delicate greens away from the dressing, and then I can stack it all up. I can even put it in the fridge. And if I had people coming over a couple hours from now, it's no problem. Pull it out, go ahead and dress it all together, and then you can serve it right away. So it's just a way to save time and keep that flavor nice and high, okay? This is one of the things that I love. As far as a chef, I like to cook, but I don't like to waste time. So the cool thing about a peeler, just a regular old peeler, okay? It's microplane, made by the same company that makes these cool things, is that they actually have, even your peelers has two blades. This blade on this side is for a left-handed person, and this blade is for a right-handed person. So if I'm right-handed, I'm only doing this all day long, I'm only using one of the blades. If I want to peel things like a cucumber or anything long and straight like this, you can actually use both blades and go twice as fast. This is how restaurants rip through product a lot faster than people at home, because it's just these tiny little things. This isn't magic. You have this as well. It just depends whether or not you knew that there were two blades, and now you do, so you can rip through prep twice as fast as you normally do, okay?
I have a question for Mary.
Question.
Since my diagnosis and treatment, eating vegetables causes me to have pain, are there some ways I can get vegetable nutrition without having pain?
Yeah, good question. So if you do something as a juice, that's very easily digested. So can I juice some things? And I had a lady earlier this morning and she's like, I'm just juicing celery. And I'm like, well, you're missing out on a bunch of other colors. Each vegetable gives you a different phytonutrient. So things that are orange have different cancer fighters, and things that are red, that are purple, that are white. So if you are juicing, which I recommend for my patients after their surgery, to get that veg nutrition and cancer fighting phytonutrients, juice multiple colors together. So one, could it be a juice? Can I buy a juice? The other would be is things that are peeled and well cooked are easier to digest. And I think Chef would agree, we should be eating in season. So I'm looking at what's in my grocery store, what's at my farmer's market. I'm going to eat in season. That's also going to get more variety in. And then if I'm having a hard time with digestion, I'm going to do things that I can peel and well cook, like squashes, zucchinis, asparagus tips, mushrooms, fennel, carrots, green beans, beets, tips of the asparagus. You're going to, well, if they have a peel, you're going to peel them real well. If they have seeds, you're going to seed them, and then you're going to cook them really well. And also you can mash them. That even helps with digestion. You know, if I don't have a stomach anymore, my digestion is actually starting in my mouth. So I think juicing, and I think things that you can peel, seed, and well cook and mash.
Fantastic.
Like the celery root.
Like the celery root.
Yes.
That's right. And the thing is, when you're steaming, or even if you're boiling vegetables, to break it down, the cool thing is like any sort of water-soluble vitamins, you can boil in a small amount of water. And if you drink that like a broth, or to add that back in like a stock, and to puree something or have a juice or blend it into a soup, you're not losing any vitamins.
Yep.
You know, if you were to boil in a big thing of water and then pull all that out, there's a lot of water-soluble vitamins that are in that water and not in the vegetable anymore. So I try to incorporate all that stuff and not lose, those flavors or the vitamin nutrients, okay?
So you can mash them in the liquid that you used.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
of course, yeah.
And this broth that we have in here, we're gonna use that. We're gonna serve it with this broth, which is just like armed at the hilt with flavor, which is wonderful. Great question, by the way, thank you for that. What I've done here is is just put in some of the delicate greens on top. They're still pretty far away. They have like little water waders on their hips, okay? They're still pretty far away from the vinaigrette that we made earlier. So we have the greens right here. I also have a little bit of cilantro, okay? For those of you that don't like cilantro, I always recommend going out, buying cilantro, and then putting it right in the compost. Compost. Don't throw it away. It just seems like a waste. But if you compost what you just bought, you don't like it, just compost it, okay? For those of you that like cilantro, we're gonna add it to this salad. So
it's a genetic disorder. So
it
is. Yeah, they can't break it down. So it's like soap.
And if you ask people, they would not say it's a genetic disorder. They would say, what is wrong with you other people? What is wrong? They're like, we are genetically superior. Why would you like that flavor? The cool thing about cilantro, though, unlike parsley, is that even the stems, these stems are very delicate and they don't have any sort of bitterness that, or the stem doesn't get hard or bitter the way that parsley does. So you can use the entire thing. You could blend it. There's no need to like barely pick these leaves, just rip it all off, tear it up with your hands, like really get involved with your food. You don't have to use a knife every single time, okay?
And herbs are like weeds. Everybody should have an herb garden. And they are phytonutrient bombs. If you think about them, they're so concentrated.
Nice.
That they are huge cancer fighters and they grow like weeds.
And they're delicious. You know, they're quite good. Avocado, okay. If you like avocado, great. If you don't, we'll leave it out because again, there's a lot of flavor in here. The thing about avocado, and I went ahead and did this while Mira was explaining something, is when you slice an avocado, you know, turn the avocado around the knife and then open it up and just give it a little twist. It'll open up like this. What I'm always concerned about is when people hold it in their hand and they go, whack. Don't do that, okay? Because a lot of times it'll slip off that pit. You can do two things. You can just get your hand out of the way and go boop, with this little elbow portion of the knife, or you can just kind of go bloop and just pop it out like that. Okay, whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you.
Safety first.
Have fun, safety first, yeah. I'm using a spoon. I'm using the less sharp end of the spoon. And what's really great is I don't have to get my fingers and hands really dirty. I can just go ahead and use the avocado skin, if you will, to help me get these little portions of avocado out there. All right. Question.
You are using ginger in these recipes. Is ginger a good thing for me to include in my diet?
So ginger has natural digestive aids to it. So it can aid in digestion. I recommend ginger tea a lot to my patients if they're having nausea. So you just take the knob of the ginger, peel it, grate it, put it in 4 cups of water, simmer it 15 minutes longer if you like the flavor. Then you can do that either cold or warm. But ginger has great health benefits for digestion. So if you're having problems with nausea or digestion, ginger is your friend. Now, ginger ale, ginger snaps have no ginger in them. So if you want to get that ginger benefit, you actually have to use the knob itself. And it's funny because I buy fresh ginger at my farmer's market, which is like butter. I mean, it just melts into, I use my microplaner and it just melts into everything. And I think if you like the flavor of ginger, it should be a daily thing for you, or at least a weekly thing for you.
That's cool.
That's fantastic. I mean, ginger, one of those things that it's so pungent, like it has so much flavor. If you like the flavor of ginger and you like it a little bit more chill, go for, you know, ginger that looks like this, these big round knobby ones. There's other ginger you might find that's a little bit more linear, like cylindrical, and it's a little bit more fibrous. That one's going to be a bit more hot. That has a little bit more heat. And this one has a little more roundness as far as the ginger flavor. So I'm going for this, okay?
I'm going to show you what fresh ginger looks like. It looks nothing like that.
Yeah.
You mean just a little nub, yeah? The little tiny.
This is right out of the ground.
Those are amazing.
So cool.
And then I buy it with the leaves attached, and the leaves are not edible, but you can use the leaves like the lemongrass.
Nice.
And throw them into soups, and then it's fantastic.
Incredible.
So nice.
Again, huge thanks to Debbie's Dream Foundation for our road trip. We're going to go ahead and do a 22 road trip. It's going to be great. It's going to be so fun. I can't believe it. I am so honored. It's going to be so exciting.
Only if we can bring our Dachshunds with us.
Oh, yeah. The Dachshund power. Okay. The Dachshund's out of the bag, as they say. I don't know who says that. I don't know who they are. but we like them, don't we? Okay, these are great questions. This is wonderful, wonderful questions. Let's recap, shall we? We have this broth, a couple different ingredients, some stock. We did the celery root. Yeah, we went ahead and just peeled that bad boy with a knife, which I find is better than using a peeler. And then I diced that up, and that's in here. So we're actually steaming the celery root as we're making that broth. That's one. We went ahead and made the dressing. Salad's almost ready. I don't have to serve it because all the firmer, harder ingredients, vegetables are in the bottom. So this we can just let sit for quite some time before we're ready to serve, okay?
And your broth is, you're ready for the next step.
I'm ready for the next step? Okay. So next step.
Oh wait, sorry, was it 25 minutes with that broth?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, a few more minutes.
Okay, we got a few more minutes. So it's a lot like what Mary Eve was talking about with ginger. You want to steep it, you want to make a tea, all these wonderful flavors. That's essentially what we're doing behind me with that coconut milk, with the stock and all those flavors. We're just really getting all those flavors together. So when we serve it with the salmon, salmon is like on a little with the salmon, it's going to have this wonderful broth to serve it with, which is just going to be fascinating. And we're not doing anything. This is all passive. Sometimes food can get more delicious as you ignore it. That's not bad, yeah? Okay, now let's serve a soup, shall we? We're actually making the soup as well. I don't want you to get overwhelmed with the number of dishes we're making. Like I said, you can just go ahead and take this and just make the salad, just make the soup. So let's get started on that. This is a watercress and spinach soup, okay? For me, it started with a pea and spinach soup and sort of evolved into a watercress spinach soup because watercress is just unbelievably healthy. And sometimes it has a little bit of a bite, but when you cook it down like we are today, that bite seems to go away, all right? So I know that I made a mention to the smell of fresh onions just cooking away nice and slowly, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and start with olive oil, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil.
You're doing something that I don't think you're realizing that you're doing. So you are helping us get more omega-3s in. So omega-3s are anti-inflammatory fats. And in American culture, we don't get much in the foods that we tend to eat. But Chef has used multiple ones today. So the salmon is omega-3 rich, the olive oil is omega-3 rich, the avocado is omega-3 rich. So you just right there, this is an anti-inflammatory kind of scene.
That's now officially the name of our road trip, omega-3s. People are like, what does that mean? And that's what starts the conversation. Just curiosity and plain, what are you talking about? Sometimes gets a person to ask questions. And the thing is, you know, it's just a matter of, do I want this whitefish or do I want this salmon? Do I want this? You know, you can choose what you want. And as far as, you know, different types of preparation, I'm here to answer any questions to make sure that we land it perfectly. There's no panic with me when I'm cooking. It's just like, this is part of my routine. I want to make sure that when I eat healthily. And I want to make sure it's a very easeful experience as well, okay? So speaking of easeful, I've just taken the onion. You see me, I cut the ends off, the poles, if you will, cut it in half. And that's what I have right now, yeah? So what I'm going to do now is just look straight down on this onion. One slice is here, one slice is here, and the knife blade is actually parallel to these slices. And I'm just going down like that. I'm going to move over about 1/4 of an inch, straight down, 1/4 inch, straight down, 1/4 inch, straight down. Then I'm going to rotate the entire onion. And I'm going to slice in toward the middle, rotating the blade upwards toward the top. Okay, once I get to the top, my body doesn't actually allow this knife to go past that. So all I have to do is plop it over like that and continue in the exact same fashion that I did before. Okay, it's not a perfectly cubed piece of onion, but the great thing is it doesn't have to be, because all the pieces of onion are essentially the same size, and that's what I care about. What I don't want to have happen is you just chop the onion like it owes you money, where you end up with like big chunks of onion and a tiny sliver of onion. The problem with that, just random choppy chop, is that the bigger pieces are still raw and the tiny pieces are probably burnt. We've all experienced that. I'm going to take the other half and the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and just cut straight down.
While you're doing that, I have a question for Mary again. Speaking of omega-3, I had a gastrectomy and I'm wondering if I should be taking special vitamins or minerals. I do take a daily multivitamin. Do I need to take extra more than just a multivitamin?
Yeah, really good question. So if you've had a total gastrectomy or even a partial gastrectomy, there are multiple vitamins and minerals that you may need to supplement. The big one is vitamin B12. So B12 is fascinating because it needs this intrinsic factor. So when we eat something that has B12 in it, our stomach produces this intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor and B12 travel through the gut to the ileum, and then they are absorbed. If you don't have a stomach anymore or partial stomach, you have no intrinsic factor. So if you're taking B12 as an oral supplement, it's never going to be absorbed because it doesn't have this buddy that it needs to get into your body. So you need to take a B12 injection. You should also be monitoring your B12 with your physician. Also iron. So iron needs an acidic environment for absorption. Well, the main acidic organ in the body is your stomach. The pH of your stomach is 2. I mean, that's like battery acid. So if you don't have a stomach anymore, you have a very unfriendly environment for the iron to be absorbed. So you want to be monitoring your iron, both B12 and iron anemia. So if you're anemic, ask your physician, hey, what's my iron doing? What's my B12 doing? The other thing you need to be really conscious of is vitamin D. So vitamin D, our bodies make it from the sun. We don't get much sunlight or we're using sunscreen. It's about 90% of some populations are vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D is not only important for bone health, but it's also important for your immune system. So again, get your vitamin D level checked with your physician. And if it's deficient, then you need to be taking a supplement. You can never correct vitamin D with oral diet. It's always going to be a supplement. And then the last one that you need to worry about, calcium. So calcium, again, for a lot of us is hard to get in. Depending on our age, it's 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium that we need every day. And sometimes with a gastrectomy, people cannot digest dairy. It causes this thing called dumping. And so it falls out of my pouch into my small bowel, and then I feel pretty sick. So I have a large population of people who cannot do dairy. So you might need to find other sources of calcium in your diet. Leafy greens have calcium in them. Or I may need to take a calcium supplement. Again, you want to talk to your provider about what would be the best calcium supplement for you. So not just taking a multivitamin, but looking at your B12, looking at your D, looking at your iron, and looking at your calcium. Those are all important for our people who may have had stomach removal.
Got it. Excellent question. And I mean, wonderful explanation as well. The thing about when you were talking about the dumping, when people ask me about diet, just a neighbor or what have you, as a chef, they'll say, I like to do smoothies in the morning. And I'll say, the thing about a smoothie is like, take your time, just really sip it. Don't just guzzle it all down, because it would be impossible without a blender to get that many calories and that much food in your system at once. And your system just isn't necessarily made for a massive onslaught of that much. So just, just enjoy your food. Just, also, like life is not about a drive-through.
Yeah. Protein. So our bodies have about a 30-gram cap at a time. So I have people who are drinking these 60-gram protein drinks, and I'm like, okay, 30 grams of that is probably used for something else. You want to get protein throughout the day. That's really important for our gastrectomy patients and patients in treatment. And you want to eat your protein first, and then the other things after that. So the salmon that we're using today is a great, easy to digest protein. And Chef, tell us the best type of salmon to buy.
Well, the best type of salmon I always feel is actually wild salmon. I think is amazing. It is sort of like, as far as the U.S. is concerned, Alaskan salmon. I think that salmon run, they just opened up. That season just opened. Just started the last couple of days. And Sarah and I were fortunate enough to go there. And it's amazing. It's an amazing fishery. And also, like, Maine has a really great salmon as well. And Scottish salmon is really good too. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a wonderful fish, and Americans love it. It's one of the top 3 we love. So let me show you where we are right now. Wild caught. This is wild caught.
Wild caught.
Exactly.
Yeah, domestic.
What we're doing right now is a lot like dancing. It's a lot like a do-si-do. You kind of come, you grab a partner, you grab another partner, you keep going around. Right now we're doing a dance because over here, I just have onions and some salt. And I'm going to add some garlic to that. This is for the soup, right? And this one, I'm going to turn it down. And for this one, this is all steamed. That's quite warm. This is the steamed celery root, okay? And what you're looking at in here is the broth, and it's still going. What I want to do now is add on top of the steamed celery root some bok choy. All I've done, it looks like this. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Done this. And I just go ahead and quarter the bok choy, okay? I'm layering this down. This is going to be the bed for the salmon, okay? Now, if you've ever gone to a Chinese restaurant, you've gotten dim sum, and they bring it in these wonderful little steamer baskets that were super popular in the 70s. I'm sure everyone still has them. Is that it doesn't directly heat whatever it is you're trying to cook. It's an indirect way of cooking because you're not like directly on the flame. And the steam envelops it. You can still see a little steam coming off of that. So I have this bed of the bok choy, okay? And I'm gonna grab the salmon that I've portioned into 4 portions. And the reason I did this is just, it's gonna be easier to serve, okay? Like this goes over here. As long as there's a little bit of space between each of the salmon, it'll cook just fine. You don't want it layering on top of one another. These are beauties. These are really lovely, okay? I'm gonna put it just like that, skin side down. And I'm gonna season it with a little bit of salt, okay? Just a little bit of kosher salt. Now, when I'm seasoning with kosher salt, I'm seasoning from way up here, okay? I'm not seasoning from way down there so that the salt falls evenly. The distribution of salt is really lovely. It's like a pyramid rather than just like a big clump of salt that hits one spot, okay? This goes back on. Here we are. And the lid goes back on.
5-minute timer.
Okay. Now, the great thing about salmon, or really about steaming, is it's hot, you know? I mean, it's more than boiling. 212 is boiling, but steam is like, it's hot. So you have this like gentle, but quite aggressive way of steaming vegetables. So it happens really fast. 5 to 7 minutes is all it takes to cook that salmon. And the best way to find out whether it's done, get yourself a digital thermometer, and medium rare salmon is 120 degrees. That's the way I like it, to where it just cleaves apart and it's nice and buttery. So I have one of these on hand as well, okay? So just a couple more things to do as far as serving things up. It looks like we're in the middle of a couple things, but we're actually at the very end, okay? Because I know that 5 or 7 minutes with the salmon, the salad, all I have to do is mix it together and that's done. And as far as the soup, so we've got the onions, the garlic, this is going on. And here I have microwave. If you want to steam it, you can do that as well. A bag of frozen spinach, believe it or not. I'm a classically trained Emmy-nominated chef, and I just go to the freezer section, why not? And just go ahead and cook this in your microwave, or you can steam it. And this also has some of the watercress in it as well. And what I did was I just let it drain out most of the liquid. And I'm gonna add this to what? A blender. A blender. How was that?
Then the broth is
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna add this to the blender. And there's no reason not to do this. If you don't have a blender and you have an immersion wand, it's also a nice thing to do. You can add all the ingredients in there and just use an immersion wand. Yeah, use an immersion wand. If you don't feel like cleaning that, that's great, okay?
It's the best tool to have because moving hot liquids in blenders is scary for me. So the immersion blender is great.
It is, it's amazing. And this is actually what keeps me on my toes. I don't even like making soups. Sarah's like, make a soup, and then I run, usually with a shirt off, just to make sure I'm on my toes, you know? When you're making, you're exactly right, Mary Eve. When you're making soups, you want to go ahead and fill it up maybe halfway, because as we know, heat will expand things. You don't want stuff going all over the place, okay?
So while you get that soup going with the broth and all that, question for Mary Eve. I just started my chemotherapy and my appetite is terrible. I'm losing weight. What are the ways I can improve my appetite?
So appetite is fascinating to me. So our appetite is in our brain. There are triggers throughout the body that triggers that appetite to say, hey, you need to eat something. A lot of times disease and treatment shuts that center down. So you have to kind of think of it in a different way. Sometimes drinking can be easier than eating. Eating is work. And if I don't really want to eat, I don't want to cut something up and have to chew it and chew it and chew it and swallow it. Can I drink something like a soup? So I tell my patients, get some really good calorie soups, maybe a cream of potato, maybe a bean soup, maybe a pea soup, and blend it. That way it's uniform consistency. I'm not doing this and like just drinking the broth about it, and put it in a mug, drink it like a beverage. It's going to be easier to get in. Chef talked about a smoothie. Can I do a smoothie? And I liked what he said. Don't drink the whole thing at one time, but maybe split it up into smaller amounts. I would add some healthy fat in there, whether it be avocado or MCT oil, coconut milk. Those are all really easy to digest, heavy calorie things, but they won't make me feel full and uncomfortable. Doing things that just kind of go down pretty easy. I don't have to spend a lot of work on it. Can it be a mashed sweet potato? Can it be a casserole? The soups, the stews that are blended, drinking the protein shakes. The other thing is I work with the caregivers, because when your loved one is going through cancer and you see your loved one not eating well and feeling bad, what does the caregiver do? Here's all this food, and they put all this stuff on their plate, and the patient's like, I can't look at that. It's going to make me sick. So small plates, even using like a sandwich plate, small cups, like a juice cup, the person undergoing the treatment's going to look at that and go, I can do that. That's okay to do. So not overwhelming with large cups or large plates, but small cups, small plates, drinking things that have nutrition in them, and blending things. I think all can work for someone who doesn't want to eat. Also, come to the table. So when we come to the table, automatically our body's going, oh, well, it's time to eat. Don't feed your loved one in their chair or in their bed. Have people come to the table. Make it not about the food, maybe the environment. So sometimes we play games at our kitchen table. We play word games, we play bananagrams, like take the pressure off of the eating part of it, set the table, play music, play a game, have conversation. Because patients say, oh, I eat so much better when I go out to eat. It's because it's not all about the food, it's about the environment, and setting a nice environment can really help somebody to eat better.
Fantastic. No, I agree. As far as going to the table, there is something about like the ceremony about going to a table, which is really lovely, which is why I think when we go to a restaurant, it seems more special because we're actually going to a table that's not our own. But, place settings, all those things can make it actually quite nice. And you're exactly right. Like, you're like, oh, it's time to eat. Let's get down and tuck into this. Okay. Which is perfect timing, because now is the time we serve everything.
I'm going to have one more question for Mary now, but just give like a real brief recap of.
Okay. Synopsis. What I threw in as far as the rest of this would be a little bit of butter, some mint leaves, and then we're going to blend that whole thing up. I've already blended it for sound purposes, and my dog is going to freak out. So this is exactly what you would have. You would blend that. This is the most simple dessert ever. This is almond tofu, and it has no real almonds and no tofu in it. Okay. So what I have in here is 2.5 cups of milk, any milk you want, non-dairy, almond milk, oat milk, whatever you want, a little bit of sugar, and some agar-agar powder, which you can find in the grocery store, and that is from seaweed. Bring this to a simmer. Once it comes to a simmer, then I add a little bit of almond extract, and you pour it into a container like this. And in 30 minutes room temperature, it sets up, and it is bonkers good. Super duper easy. And it's a way to get nutrition without having to go with dairy. Okay.
So question for Mary from Judy. My sister has been on J2 for 2 years. How do we help her eat more orally? She always said she feels discomfort even after tiny bits of oral food.
Really good question. So I'm thinking that this is what if this patient was mine. So I'm going to do nocturnal feedings overnight, which you can safely do with a jejunostomy tube, unhook in the morning, and then wait a couple of hours and start. You can't go from a feeding tube to solid food. And I don't know the particulars about this patient, but I would start with liquids first. So can it be, some broth? Can it be, some kind of nutritional drink in small amounts? So you're going to start out with maybe 2 ounces at a time every couple of hours, and then stopping probably a couple of hours before they're going to go back on the feeding tube. And then slowly over periods of time, get that portion a little bit bigger, then move into things that are pureed. So pureeing a soup, applesauce, mashed bananas, mashed potatoes, scrambled eggs. And then again, it's these small toddler portions. And over time, people can eat more. But then as you are able to take more by mouth, you cut back on the feeding. So Mary's talking about this appetite center in the brain. It's nutrition, whether it's coming from a feeding tube or I'm eating it orally by mouth. So to a certain degree, she's getting satisfied from the feeding tube. So the appetite center of my brain it's satisfied. I don't really need to eat. But as you start to increase oral diet, slowly wean the feeding off, appetite will come back. It's just going to take time. And she's been on it for 2 years. That is really a big time period of not eating as much. And I would focus on things that are easy to digest that we just kind of talked about, but it's liquids to pureed to soft, and then slowly weaning the feeding back. That's a really great question.
No, I think this group is amazing. If you have separation anxiety issues like I do, this is not going to be the last time we get to see each other. So we're going to see each other, I believe, is it August?
In August is our next one. Yes.
Okay, August is our next one. And let me just show you this. It's coming off in pieces because it's so delicate and so buttery that I have, as I'm serving this up, it's a lovely, lovely dish. We have that incredible broth at the bottom. This way? We have this incredible broth at the bottom. We have the bok choy. We have this soup. For those of you that are sort of wondering what I went ahead and added on top of that, something called furikake. And it's like, I think, sesame seeds with a little bit of seaweed. And it really helps that umami. It's that sort of mouthfeel of the deliciousness and the savoriness.
Chef, I had to look up what that was because I learned something. I had no idea that existed. So thank you.
Well, it's nice to know that I've learned 15 things and you've learned one. So touche, you really crushed it today. This is the salad. And again, I like to really get my hands involved. I don't like to use tongs when it comes to salads because I feel that you're just really doing a disrespect as far as all those fresh herbs and all the fresh things that you have in there. And I watch people serve salads and it looks like they're just mad at the salad with those tongs, but go ahead and just serve it with your hands. It's nice and delicate. And this is the last thing that we were talking about. And it sets up in about 30 minutes. And you can serve it with bananas. You can serve it with canned peaches, whatever type of fruit that you would like to serve it with. And this is the texture. It's like silky and lovely. And I cannot be more excited about this dessert. And it holds super well. And it's not like Jell-O in the way that it's just like overly firm. It's just really, really silky. Thus the subject of it, which is almond tofu. And again, it's not tofu, but it certainly does look like a silken tofu. And if you want to serve it with, again, let's say I think we had some canned peaches in their regular, I guess it was juices. Thank you very much.
Yep, perfect.
But
perfect.
you can serve it by itself. Bananas. If you guys have never had these bananas, and the same thing, it's just a banana. This is so creamy and so wonderful and delicious. You put that over the top, and Bob's your uncle.
Melanie says, Mary would love to have you do a seminar for DDF. You're amazing. I have had a TG for 13 years and run a Facebook group for stomachless patients. The one thing that is always asked is about nutrition. Chef, love you as well. When I hit the lottery, you can become my personal chef.
Well, let's all hope you win the lottery.
And
then we can all come to your place forever and ever and ever. I think that'd be wonderful. The thing is that's really lovely about being here is with Debbie's Dream Foundation is that the food is like really getting around the table, breaking bread together, learning together, moving forward together. Hans Rufer, who got me involved in this a long time ago, had said, as long as you're falling forward, you're still going forward. So as long as we're going forward together, we can make this happen. Yeah. And we've made 4 different things. We've made a wonderful salmon with an incredible broth. We made a wonderful soup. This dessert, which takes no time at all, just 4 ingredients, and this salad, which you could put any sort of protein on top of it, and you would be super happy with that. And I hope you make 1, 2, 3, if not 4 of all these. And don't forget, this isn't our first rodeo. Mary Eve and I have already done one cooking thing together, and that, of course, is on Debbie's Dream Foundation YouTube page. You can watch us over and over and over again until you've memorized it, and then you can mouth the different parts with your family.
And if you register for these events through the Debbie Dream Foundation, there's a link on the Facebook page, then you'll get a booklet with all these recipes. So these will be available to you. And the video it's recorded, and it will be posted on the Facebook page, Debbie Dream Foundation Facebook page. It's on there, and then YouTube. So plenty of opportunities to see this again.
Fantastic. Thank you big time to everyone behind the scenes at Debbie's Dream Foundation for making this happen, for allowing us to participate and monopolize an entire hour of your day. I hope you found this very productive. I know that I've learned a lot from Mary Eve. Thank you to Sarah for project managing this whole thing and making sure that she's behind all this fun stuff. And we're all going to help together. And if you have pets, give them lots of pets and lots of kisses on the nose, because I know we will.
And children, or children.
Oh, children. People have children. People have children. I'm out of here. And people that have children as well. All right. So thank you a million times. We will see you again next month. No, August?
August.
I don't even know what month it is, but I'm getting better.
Okay. Thanks, Chef. This was awesome.
Thank you very much, Mary Eve. Thank you. You've been amazing. And we'll be talking at you soon. All right.
And stick around for a second. I'm going to post some slides so you'll see who are the wonderful sponsors that made this event possible, as well as the date for the next event. So thank you all very much.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.